What's going on, guys? Stefan here with you, S&E's Garage. Today we are working on our 05 GX470 and we are going to be doing a complete fuel system overhaul on this truck today. So this video is going to work for a wide range of Toyota and Lexus trucks, GX470, the Toyota 4Runner, the FJ Cruiser. There's a bunch of different trucks that this unit here will work for. But what we're basically going to do is we're going to drop the fuel tank. We're going to disassemble the factory fuel sending unit. And we're going to be installing a high flow Walbro. I believe it's a 255, 255 LPH high flow fuel pump. And we're also going to be installing this auxiliary fuel filter. Unfortunately, Toyota and Lexus, in their infinite wisdom, did not install a true fuel filter in these trucks. It's just a little sock in the tank. It gets clogged. It starts to choke the fuel system. And what we are actually experiencing with this, especially now that we've done the headers, this actually has gotten worse. We're having a part throttle surge that is due to a lack of fuel flow. We're not getting enough fuel pressure to the injectors. And the car is basically trying to open the injectors as far as it can, and then it starts to surge. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to address that today. And then while we're at it, we're also going to be replacing a broken fuel tank strap. So what we're going to be using to drop our fuel tank here is this Franklin table here. It's a hydraulic table. I can lift it up about 3 feet. That should be enough for us to go ahead and get the tank out. So I'll leave something similar in the video description below. I picked this unit up here from Harbor Freight. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to open up our fuse box here. Ours is going to be a little bit more complicated because I have all of this fun stuff going on. But there is a fuel filter or a fuel pump fuse that we are going to have to go ahead and remove. It's going to be labeled as COPN. That's basically the circuit opening relay for the fuel pump. And then we're going to go ahead and fire the truck off, and we're going to let it run until it dies. And what this is going to do is deplete any fuel pressure that is present in the fuel system so that when we start opening these lines, we're not going to get sprayed with high pressure fuel. Now, one thing I want to make note of here is it is going to be very smart of you to drive this thing until the fuel tank is quite literally empty, because the more fuel you have in it, the heavier it's going to be. So you'll see we are down at the E. We have 37 miles to empty, so we did go ahead and do that. So in our case, the circuit open relay is going to be this blue one right here. Just take your fuse panel cover off, read the diagram, and pull out basically what they tell you to pull out. Pull that out. And what I like to do, I'll just stick the relay upside down where I got it from, just so I remember where it goes. But now we're going to go ahead, we'll fire the truck off and let it run until it dies. That didn't take long. Okay. That was easy. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step. So now that we went ahead and got the fuel here out of the fuel system, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to kill all the power to the car. We don't want anything at all here making any kinds of sparks to ignite anything. And then we're just going to come back here to the back of the truck and we're going to go ahead, open the fuel filler, and then drop it on the ground while completely missing the bracket that I was aiming for. So the next thing we're going to do here before we lift the vehicle up is gain access to this access panel here. That's going to give us access to the top of the fuel tank to go ahead and unplug the connectors to the fuel pump. Now, to do that, your best and easiest bet is to just go ahead and remove one of the rear seats. It's held in with 4 bolts. You'll see it over there. It's super easy to do. I didn't really think I needed to record it. So you're just going to go ahead and pull your seats, and then we're going to pull this access panel and unplug the fuel pump. Now, if you want my personal opinion, I think that it's absolutely ridiculous that Toyota decided to put an access panel up here, but not make it big enough to remove the fuel tank or the fuel pump from the top. I think that was probably a little bit of an engineering flaw there, but we're gonna go ahead and unplug that. I'll show you how to do it in just a second. What a lot of guys will actually do here is just cut this hole with like a Sawzall even bigger so that they can wrestle the pump out, but I don't want to chop my truck up, so we are not going to be doing that. Okay. So this is your fuel pump connector here, and this is your tab. You're just gonna press this tab here and wiggle, and you can go ahead and unplug the fuel pump. So the next two things you're gonna have to deal with here are these two fuel lines here. One is a pressure line, one is a return line. You're gonna have two little clamps on there. One of them is going to be yellow, and one of them is going to be green. Now the yellow one is going to be on our right or the left of the car, and the green is going to be on our left or the right of the car. This is them here, and to remove them, you basically slide this yellow thing off and you rotate the clip, and it comes out, and then you can just go ahead and remove those two fuel lines, so they are now disconnected. So now we're gonna come up over here. We're going to go ahead and remove, I'm gonna go with the one up here, that little hose clamp there for the filler neck, and then we have this blue connector up here. That is a line for the vent vapor evap system, so we're gonna go ahead and remove that. That goes into the tank. And then there's one large one up here that goes into that canister that we are also going to have to go ahead and remove. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll be able to start dropping our skid shield. Now when you lift your truck, be sure that you lift it in a way that is not going to interfere with the shield here. I do have a broken tank strap, so I'm still trying to decide if I want to drop the whole tank in one shot, or if I want to pull the shield first and hope that the remaining strap that I have holds the tank up. So we're gonna weigh our options here, but I'll let you know what we come up with when we get there. So to get this big line off here, you're going to pinch these tabs in, wiggle and pull, and it's going to go ahead and come off of that nipple. Now you're just gonna go ahead, you have to pull this little hose here out of this white bracket. That way it's free from the vehicle, and we can go ahead and drop our tank skid shield and then work on dropping the tank. And what you're gonna see here is our fuel tank skid is down. We have this RCI skid shield, so it was kind of a pain in the butt to get it out of there, but hopefully you don't have that problem. So you'll see here, we have our one good tank strap holding the tank up. Here is our broken one, which is obviously very broken. So I just put a strap there just in case, so the tank didn't like fall and break or anything. And the shield's out here. I just hosed it off. It had some mud in it. Gonna clean it up real nice, and we'll just spray this with some spray paint real quick after it dries, just to, you know, give that a nice little coating. But let's go ahead and get our powertrain table. Let's get it up under the fuel tank, and then we just have this one skid here, or this one strap holding the tank up. So we'll remove that. Looks like a 14 millimeter, and then there's a clip up here with a pin in it that we'll go ahead and remove, and we'll be able to drop the whole tank. And what you're gonna see here is the fuel tank is out. We did go ahead and remove that broken strap. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our vacuum cleaner here, and we're gonna clean all of this dirt and all of this gook off of the top of this tank before I even think about opening this fuel filter, or this fuel tank, I should say, because we don't want any of this getting into the tank and damaging the new pump that we're getting ready to put in. So let us go ahead, clean this off. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna give this frame rail a nice quick wipe down, and I'm gonna spray this with some spray paint. We're gonna do some spraying up here. The frame on this truck is actually extremely solid. It's a West Virginia truck, so it is in very, very nice shape, luckily. So we do want to preserve it and keep it that way. So we're gonna clean that up, but let's go ahead, clean the tank off and take it from there. All right, guys, so here's the fuel tank. We got it just about as clean as I think it needs to be. I'm going to clean it up a little bit more after we get these lines out of the way. But what I want to show you here is you need to remember where these lines come from. So I'm going to make this super easy for you. The line on your left is going to connect to the nipple on your left, the line on the right, nipple on the right. So left, closest to the plug, right, furthest from the plug. To remove these plugs, you're going to spread the back end of it away, and then more or less you have to release this, and then this yellow tang will pull out like so, and then you can go ahead and remove the fuel line. Now, before I remove these lines, I do just want to make sure that the area on top of the lines is clean, but then we can go ahead and pull them like so. A little bit of fuel is going to come out from the back set of the lines. Just make sure you have something under there to grab it. And now we can finish cleaning this area up. Now right here, you're going to see this little lip here is going to be in between these two arrows. So you'll see this lines up with that line and these two arrows. I want you to remember that. We need to make sure that we put this back in that orientation. We're going to be using set up something like this. See if this works. To go ahead and break this. Now, once you remove this ring, you can go ahead and remove the basket. You're just going to want to do so very carefully here, and you do not want to damage the pump float. So just be mindful. Once you get to a certain point, you have to pivot it up. And now we're going to go ahead, we're just going to dump the rest of this fuel over here. Into our oil drain. Now we can go ahead on the toolbox and begin to disassemble this. So now we're at a point here where we can begin the modification process here of this basket. Now there's going to be two sets of wires here. You're going to have a pink and a black and a blue and a black. The blue and the black are what go to the fuel pump. So about halfway up to the top of the basket, you're going to go ahead and cut the blue and black wires. I just used a pair of dikes for that. And then we're going to go ahead and unplug the pink and black wires from the top of the basket. This will allow us later on to separate the basket from the top of the pump. So to unsnap this, there's going to be a clip here and a clip on the other side. So we're just going to go ahead and release this clip. That one is released. We'll go ahead and release this one. And now we can pull the basket. There's a third clip back here. Now we can go ahead and remove the basket. Now over here, there's going to be another retainer here. And there's going to be one over here. We're going to have to unsnap them as well. We're also going to go ahead and remove the fuel pump assembly. There is a small vent tube here that we are going to have to unclip. Like so. Now we can set this basket aside. You'll see the inside of it's kind of dirty. We're going to bring this inside and rinse it out and clean it up. So the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna follow this black fuel line here up to where it comes in at the top of the module here. You're gonna use a razor blade and you're very carefully just going to score this. You don't want to cut all the way through or into the white plastic. You just want to give it a nice score. And then you should be able to separate it and remove it. Once you are at this step, you can now pull the plastic vent line out. Now we can set this whole unit aside. Now very quickly, what we want to do is slide our assembly back into the bucket, and we're just going to put a little arrow here just to show that that's where the high pressure line from the tank or from the pump that was in here came up. That way when we go to route our new hose, we know exactly where that's going to go. But in this area here is also where we're going to go ahead and mount the new fuel pump. So this is just going to prep us for that. Next up, we're going to take a tape measure here from the top of the tank, and we're going to measure 3 1/8 of an inch. And we are going to mark it. Once you mark your line, you're just going to go ahead and trace it like so. And now we're going to go ahead and look for the sheet metal clamp that they provide. And we're going to line this up like so. And we're going to make another line directly above it. And this is what you should see. You'll have your arrow where the fuel line comes in and your 2 lines. Now what you need to do is you need to use a razor blade or a Dremel or a grinder or something. And you're going to make a cut here and a cut here. You're going to make that cut as thin as possible. You literally just want to be able to slide this through it, and this is what's going to secure your new fuel pump into this basket. What we decided to do is just take an old screwdriver and heat it up, and we're literally just using that to melt our hole into this sender. I find that easier than having to cut anything and cleaner. And now all you want to do is make sure that your pipe here will fit through your hole, so we might just have to make ours a little bit wider here. But you just put this somewhere where it ain't gonna melt anything. Your end result should be that your hose clamp here fits snugly into the holes that you either cut or, in our case, melted. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and remove this sender. You'll see this little tang here. I'm just going to go ahead and use a pick or something of the sort to go ahead and move that. And then we can push this up, get this sender out of the way. We're going to go ahead, bring this inside, clean it up, rinse it out real good, get all that gunk out of there, any, chippings from whatever you did to make your holes, and we'll be back. So our basket here is all nice and cleaned up, and here we have our new fuel pump. We have our fuel pump sock, and what we're going to go ahead and do is install this sock onto the pump like so. And then there is a little metal retaining ring that's going to come in your packet that you are going to have to very, very carefully here. Let me just grab a really small socket here. Let's see what we got that'll fit. We're basically going to push this ring up onto this pump assembly to keep it in place. I'm going to use a 5mm socket to go ahead and do that.
And this is what your end result should be. You'll see that little ring there pressed onto the sock, and the sock is nice and secured. The next thing we're gonna do is take this 8-inch piece of hose here. This is submersible hose. It's specifically made for submersible fuel line, so don't use anything else. But you're gonna go ahead and get this all the way over your pump, and then you're gonna take one of the fuel line clamps that they provide, and we're going to go ahead and slide it all the way down here onto the fuel line like so. So Underdog is going to provide you with these spring clamps for something that's going to be in the tank with some serious pressure behind it. That from a fuel pump's probably, you know, 50, 60 pounds of pressure. I don't want to have to pull this tank back apart because this clamp didn't hold. So I just used a worm gear clamp in there instead. And then what we went ahead and did is we installed our band through the holes that we made in the carrier or in the basket here. And then we just snugged it up. You don't need to murder it. You're just gonna pull it tight. And what that's gonna do is hold the pump into place with the sock on it. You'll see we just had to curl the sock up a little bit in order to get it in. But now we can go ahead and cut the slack off of this. And we can go ahead and get ready to install the top of the carrier back onto the basket. So your next step here is going to be to go ahead and plug in your fuel pump with the new connector that they give you. And then you can go ahead and clip this unit back together. Now you're going to connect the fuel line that we connected earlier back up here to the top of the tank or the top of the sender. And what you're going to want to do is press down on this. And you just want to make sure that when this is pressed down that this hose isn't kinking at all. You want it to be nice and flexible, basically. You don't want to see any kinks. If there's any kinks, that could, you know, potentially starve the truck of fuel. So if you have to manipulate this around, by all means, manipulate it. But I think that we're going to be good here. This looks like it's working well. I don't see any major kinks. And we can now go ahead and reconnect our fuel pump here. You're going to use the connectors that they provide, the butt connectors that they provide. They are supposed to be able to be submersed in gasoline. You're going to connect the black to the black and the red to the blue. All right, now we're back over here at the fuel tank. All we went ahead and did really quickly is reinstalled our sender and plugged it back in. Again, just double check this. Make sure all of your wires are in the right spot. When you push this down, you don't want this hose here to be in any way, shape, or form pinching or binding. Ours is not. So with that being said, we are ready to go ahead and install this into the truck. What you're going to go ahead and do, you're going to take a rag with some brake clean or something. You're going to want to wipe off this mating surface here. There's an O-ring here. You can replace it if you want. Ours is still nice and soft. I'm not going to. There's going to be a little locating tab right here that's going to line up with a little tab right there on the tank, so you can't mess this up. Just make sure that that tang lines up, and you're going to slide this in this way. You're going to go float first and then slide it in. Just be mindful, if you have to manipulate the basket a little bit, just make sure this doesn't hang you up or rip the gasket or anything like that, and then we can go ahead and reinstall the ring. Now, once you are happy with what you have here, again, this line, center of these notches, I used a hammer and a screwdriver just to give it an extra tap to get it where it needs to go. Now remember, you can't mess this up. The fuel lines, left, left, right, right. Okay, we're going to take these locks here, go ahead and install them. Remember, one goes in through the front, one goes in through the back. You may have to push the fuel line down a little bit to get them to lock into place, but you'll see here, we're all done. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the blue and the yellow clips that we removed back here. I realized that I didn't have to remove them all the way. I'm just gonna reinstall them on here just so it's easier when I go to put it back together. I don't have to be reaching up there, you know, elbow deep in the truck. And one other thing I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slide my new fuel tank strap up under the tank now. That way it's easier than fighting it with the, you know, the truck in the air. All right, guys, so this is our fuel filter setup. This is going to be your next step, is to mount this. Now, I had to do this off camera because ours is going to be a little bit different than the way you do yours, because we have this RCI skid shield here. But what you'll see is the rubber hose here is on the outlet of the filter. So we looped the line around and went into the line. That's going to go up towards the engine. And then the inlet here is the green line. That's going to go into the inlet side of the filter. So your return line is going to be the yellow line, the one closest to the frame. The one closer to the drive shaft with the green clip is going to be your feed. So we just went ahead and mounted this. We're just going to do some zip tying under here, make sure nothing moves. The exhaust is pretty close to this, so I just want to make sure that we're not going to have any heat issues. And then we can lower the car down and check for leaks. Once we're confident we have no leaks, the skid shield can go back up. You are just going to go ahead and also you're going to reconnect your filler neck. You're going to reconnect your vapor line. And then you're also going to reconnect this charcoal canister line here. So let us go ahead, finish our zip tying and neatifying, and we'll be back with you when we're topside. So we basically just started the truck up, shut it down. We're just looking at everything here for leaks. Just checking my inlet here and the outlet of the new fuel filter we put in. Everything there looks good. We did go topside. We opened the passenger or the driver's rear door. We looked on top of the pump. Everything there looks good. I'm just gonna go ahead, fire it up one more time. We're gonna check it while it's running. And then all we have to do is put our shield back up. All right, here we are again, engine running. Again, we're just under here monitoring for leaks, making sure nothing is near anything that's going to be moving. So our fuel lines here are nowhere near the drive shaft. We routed them in such a way that I think will work well for us. And I think we're going to go ahead and call this job complete. So just go ahead, throw your skid shield back up. That should only take you a couple of seconds. Like I said, we're going to clean ours up a little bit more and throw it up. And that's going to be it for this video. So you just upgraded the fuel system in your GX470, your 4Runner, your Tacoma, your FJ, whatever this kit will work for, is how you do it. So like, share, subscribe. Do keep in mind they do have a couple of different fuel pump options. They have pumps that are E85 compatible. We're never gonna run E85 on this truck. We just don't have it around here, so I didn't feel the need to do that. And I'm not gonna boost it either. So I went with basically their stock replacement. It flows a little bit better than stock. But that doesn't really matter too much because the fuel pressure regulator is just going to dump whatever extra this pump is pumping back into the tank. So there's no risk here of over fueling. The car is not going to let that happen. But again, thank you so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, smash that like button, smash that follow button, and we'll see you guys next time.